Sometimes relationships don't end because something happened. They end because nothing can happen anymore. No conversation can fix it, no clarity is going to change it, and explaining what you see to the other person only makes it smaller than it actually is. This is the moment that most people don't know how to sit with, because it doesn't feel dramatic. It feels final. This is exactly what happens when you name a gap accurately, when your body withdraws consent before your mind even catches up, and there's nothing left to negotiate. From the outside, it might look a bit abrupt, but from the inside, it's been over a long time. Today, we are talking about why some connections end without repair, why silence is sometimes the most ethical response, what it means when you don't feel sad, just done, and how to let finality stand without softening it just to protect someone else's identity. Let me just get this straight. We are not talking about avoidance, ghosting, emotional shutdown, punishment, or immaturity. We are talking about clarity without bargaining. This is a point that we reach on the path of self-actualization and integration, where we are no longer available for performance or inauthentic connections. Relationships that required any level of shrinking, overcompromising, mirroring, or anything of the like have to fall away. But before they do, we reach this point of clarity where the gap between us becomes undeniable. It's when your nervous system has already completed its evaluation. It's not even just undesirable, it's impossible. Somatically impossible. Your body will viscerally reject any kind of container that you have outgrown. And up until this point, that's probably been happening in subtle ways, but this is the point when your mind finally catches up. Real, authentic repair requires shared capacity. We're not in the era of miscommunications anymore, or misunderstandings. Sure, those things happen, but at this point in life, and actually from here on out, relationships end because of structural mismatches. We are talking about going through a very large transformation, somatic, physiological, nervous system transformation, where we have moved out of survival consciousness and into a more truthful, honest, authentic way of being. You have jumped ships, essentially. When you operate from a place of truth and integrity or presence, not everyone can hold what you can hold, or see what you can see, or integrate what you can integrate. That's a structural capacity mismatch. So the way that you move through life now, fundamentally, you're no longer operating on the same foundation as most people in the world, and certainly most people who you used to connect with. You didn't just learn something new. You didn't just change a belief. You have rewritten your entire identity and architecture of your being. You've rewritten your nervous system. You've rewritten how you orient yourself in the world. So it's the kind of thing where someone may apologize even, or say something, try to justify where they're coming from, and feel very much like that was authentic to them, because it very well may have been authentic to them for where they are. But in contrast with where you are, you can see that it's honest within the framework of their current container, their current identity scaffolding, which is still prioritizing maintenance and comfort and familiarity over real, hard, cold truth. In other words, it's truly just a difference in standards, in integrity, in consciousness, and in pace. So repair in this context would obviously require shrinking, compromise, re-explaining, and negotiating your own clarity. And that is not up for negotiation. Your system viscerally will not do that anymore. It's a hard no, even if you tried. And this is the moment you realize some gaps are not just emotional, they're architectural. This actually feels more like an era of quiet authority, reclamation of truth and power, relief like dropping dead weight, and just like cleaning your nervous system. It's like vacuuming and getting rid of all the gunk and the debris that's just been lingering in your field. You are simply not available anymore. This is exactly what people are talking about when they say, I don't care anymore. I'm just done. And now, of course, that's much more disorienting most of the time for other people. Most people would rather the drama. It's disorienting to the other person because it's like cutting someone's life support off, in a way. When you are sovereign and actualized and you've done the work and you're connected to your inner guide and your truth, people feed off that shit. It validates their identity by proxy. If you're in my life, you're standing next to me, I don't have to prioritize you when it comes to like day-to-day maintenance. And in fact, I actually can't, because living actually in integrity and alignment in the way that you do, I have not built the capacity to do that. So what I'll do is I'll stay connected to you so that mentally I can think and tell myself that I am like you and that I'm doing what you're doing while I'm actively not. And the relationship only functioned because they were operating on assumed access to you, old versions of you that don't exist anymore, and unspoken permission. And so what happens is your clarity at this point forces a mirror, and they'll have to reckon with the fact that this was more important and bigger than they realized. That dissonance is not yours to resolve. And if they do apologize or say what they're going to say, a lot of the time, in fact, most of the time, silence is not avoidance here. It's completion. If you already point out that there's a misalignment or a gap between you and someone, you don't need to be the one that carries them through or explains why that is. Let them figure that out. Your silence will let them figure that out. There's nothing further to clarify. The door closing is the message. And you'd be surprised by how much people can suddenly tap into detective mode when a relationship they valued on some level, especially one that held together a very fragile identity construct, disappears, and they're forced to reckon with the fact that they weren't able to hold it the way that they thought they could. Or even more so, that it didn't reflect them, who they are, as accurately as they thought it did. Silence says there's nothing more to clarify. The pattern has already been named. You just haven't been ready to look at it or metabolize it. And further dialogue, honestly, would be self-betrayal. Because if you already have your clarity, isn't that more than enough? This is where boundaries stop being verbal and become energetic law. I wish I knew this earlier in life, but not everything needs a final speech. Some truths land harder when you don't soften them, when you don't explain them, when you just let them exist through your action and your energy. Some relationships don't end with a conversation. Sometimes they end with a simple withdrawal of consent. You are not cold. You're not cruel. And you are absolutely not shutting down. You're aligned. And alignment does not negotiate with misalignment. Where in your life have you already left, even if you haven't mentally acknowledged it yet? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching.